Captain Marcus Chen pressed his palms against the cold metal walls of his cell, feeling the vibrations of the massive ship's engines humming through the alien alloy. 3 months. 3 months since the Terran exploration vessel Aurora had been captured by the Zephyrian Empire during what was supposed to be humanity's first peaceful contact mission. 3 months since he'd watched his crew being marched away in shackles, their faces etched with the same mixture of fear and defiance that he felt burning in his chest. The cell door slid open with a hiss, and Marcus turned to face his captors. 2 towering Zephyrian guards entered, their crystalline exoskeletons catching the harsh light. Behind them walked a figure that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat, not from fear, but from an unexpected beauty that transcended species. She was tall, even by Zephyrian standards, with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian. Her eyes were completely white, lacking pupils or irises, yet somehow Marcus could feel her gaze upon him with an intensity that made his skin tingle. Her graceful arms moved with fluid precision as she gestured for the guards to step back. "Captain Chen," she spoke, her voice carrying a melodic quality that the universal translator couldn't quite capture. "I am Princess Lyralii of the Third House. We need to talk." Marcus straightened, every instinct screaming at him to maintain military bearing despite his circumstances. "Your Highness. I suppose you're here to continue the interrogation? Because I've told your people everything about our mission. We came in peace." A sound escaped her throat, something between a laugh and a sigh. "Peace. Such a fragile concept, isn't it? Your people speak of peace while your ships carry enough firepower to level a city." "Standard defensive measures," Marcus replied. "We had no way of knowing what we'd encounter out here. And we had no way of knowing if the stories about humans were true." She stepped closer, and Marcus caught a scent like ozone and starlight. "Tell me, Captain, what do you know about Zephyrian politics?" Marcus frowned. This wasn't the conversation he'd expected. "Very little. Our intel suggested you were a unified empire." "Unified," she repeated, her white eyes somehow conveying amusement. "Yes, that's what we tell outsiders. The truth is far more complicated." She moved to the small window, her reflection ghost-like in the reinforced glass. "There are factions within our society, Captain. Those who believe first contact with humanity represents an opportunity, and those who see you as a threat to be eliminated." "And which camp are you in, Princess?" She turned back to him, and for a moment Marcus thought he saw something vulnerable in her alien features. "That's what I'm trying to determine. My father, the Emperor, has decreed that one of us, a member of the royal family, must form a diplomatic bond with a human representative to demonstrate the possibility of peaceful coexistence." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "A diplomatic bond? A marriage, Captain Chen. A union that will either prove humans can integrate into our society, or provide justification for your species' destruction." Her voice remained steady, but Marcus detected something beneath the surface: resignation? Fear? "If the bond succeeds, your people live. If it fails, and if I refuse, then you sentence not only yourself but your entire crew to death. And likely doom any future human-Zephyrian relations." She paused, her head tilting slightly. "But there's something you should know about me, Captain. Something that makes this arrangement particularly challenging." Marcus waited, his mind racing through the implications of what she'd told him. "I am blind, Captain Chen. Have been since birth. Among my people, this is considered a significant disability, one that has made me unmarriageable within our own species." Her voice carried no self-pity, only matter-of-fact acceptance. "My father sees this arrangement as solving 2 problems: disposing of his defective daughter while testing the viability of human integration." The casual cruelty of it made Marcus's jaw clench. "That's barbaric." "Is it? Your own species has a long history of political marriages, does it not? Alliances forged in matrimony?" She moved closer again, and Marcus noticed how she seemed to navigate the space with perfect precision despite her blindness. "The question is, Captain, are you willing to save your people and mine by accepting this bond?" Marcus stared at her, his mind racing. The weight of responsibility pressed down on him like a physical force. His crew, humanity's future, all hanging on a decision he never could have imagined making. What exactly would this bond entail? A formal ceremony joining us in Zephyrian law. We would be expected to live as a bonded pair, to demonstrate that our species can coexist peacefully. The eyes of the entire empire would be upon us, watching for any sign of failure. And, if we can't, adapt to each other? Her white eyes seemed to pierce through him. Then, we will both likely die, and your species will be marked for extermination. She paused, then added more softly, but there may be more at stake here than either of us realizes. There are whispers in the court, rumors of something called the Convergence. Ancient prophecies that speak of a union between a sightless daughter of Zephyr and a child of Earth that will awaken something long dormant. Prophecies? Marcus couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. Zephyrians are an old race, Captain. We have learned not to dismiss the wisdom of our ancestors too quickly. She extended one of her 4 hands toward him. Will you take this chance? Will you help me save both our peoples? Marcus looked at her outstretched hand, knowing that taking it would change everything. The princess was beautiful, yes, but alien in ways that went far beyond her appearance. Her blindness, the political implications, the mysterious prophecies, it all felt overwhelming. Yet beneath his fear, something else stirred. Curiosity. And, perhaps something more. Before I answer, he said slowly, I need to know something. Are you doing this just to save your people, or is there another reason? For the first time, her composed facade cracked slightly. I have spent my entire life being told I was broken, defective, a burden to my family and my people. Perhaps I want to prove that I can be something more than my limitations. The honesty in her voice struck something deep in Marcus's chest. He thought of his own struggles, growing up poor on Earth's outer colonies, fighting for every opportunity to prove himself worthy of a command position. Different species, different challenges, but perhaps not so different after all. He reached out and took her hand. Her skin was warm, with a texture like smooth stone. The moment their flesh touched, he felt a strange tingling sensation, as if electricity was passing between them. Her white eyes widened, and she gasped softly. You felt that too? What was it? I don't know. But, for just a moment, I could almost. She trailed off, shaking her head. We should proceed to the ceremony. The court is waiting. As they walked through the corridors of the massive ship, Marcus became increasingly aware of the stares they attracted. Zephyrians stopped their conversations to watch them pass, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. The princess seemed unaffected, but Marcus noticed how her free hand stayed close to the ceremonial blade at her side. The ceremony hall was vast, with soaring crystalline pillars that seemed to sing in harmonious frequencies. Hundreds of Zephyrians filled the space, their eyes reflecting the light like stars. At the far end, on a raised dais, sat the emperor, a figure so large and imposing that Marcus felt his breath catch. The ceremony itself was unlike anything in human culture. It involved the exchange of crystalline pendants that somehow bonded to their DNA, creating an unbreakable link between them. As the final words were spoken in the ancient Zephyrian tongue, Marcus felt that strange tingling sensation again, but stronger this time. Princess Lyreliai's hand tightened on his, and she let out a small cry of surprise. For just an instant, her white eyes flickered, and Marcus could have sworn he saw something like recognition pass across her features. What's happening? He whispered. I don't know, she replied, but her voice carried a note of wonder he hadn't heard before. But something is awakening. As they were escorted to their new shared quarters, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that they had just set something in motion that neither of them understood. The princess walked beside him with a new confidence, her head held higher than before. And, when she squeezed his hand, that electrical sensation pulsed between them again, stronger each time. Their quarters were luxurious by any standard, with separate sleeping areas connected by a central living space. As the doors sealed behind them, leaving them alone for the first time as a bonded pair, Marcus felt the full weight of what they'd committed to. Now what? He asked. Princess Lyreliai turned toward him, and, for a moment Marcus thought he saw something different in her white eyes, a depth that hadn't been there before. Now we learn to live together. To trust each other. And, perhaps. she paused, touching the crystalline pendant at her throat. Perhaps we discover what our bond is truly meant to accomplish. That night, as Marcus lay in his new bed staring at the alien stars visible through the viewport, he couldn't shake the feeling that their marriage was more than just a political arrangement. The strange sensations when they touched, the flicker in her eyes, the ancient prophecies she'd mentioned, it all pointed to something larger than either of them had imagined. In the adjacent room, he could hear her moving about, and, occasionally she would hum a haunting melody that seemed to resonate through the walls. It was beautiful and alien and, somehow comforting all at once. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as they began their life together under the watchful eyes of the Zephyrian court. Marcus knew there would be tests, both official and unofficial, designed to measure their compatibility and the success of their union. The fate of both their species hung in the balance. But, tonight, as he listened to her alien song and felt the strange new connection pulsing between them through the crystalline pendant, Marcus Chen began to wonder if perhaps they had stumbled onto something extraordinary. Something that might indeed change everything. The princess had mentioned awakening something long dormant. As sleep finally took him, Marcus found himself hoping that whatever was awakening would prove to be humanity's salvation rather than its doom. Because one thing was becoming clear, their bond was triggering something far beyond what anyone had expected. And, in the darkness of space, ancient systems began to stir, responding to a signal they had waited millennia to receive. Marcus woke to the sound of alarms blaring through the ship's corridors. Emergency lights bathed their quarters in an eerie red glow as he rolled out of bed, his military training kicking in automatically. Through the thin walls, he could hear Princess Lyralii moving with surprising speed and precision despite the chaos. "Princess," he called out as he quickly dressed. "Something's wrong with the navigation systems," her voice carried from the central living area. When Marcus emerged from his room, he found her standing before a wall display that showed various ship schematics, her four hands moving across the controls with practiced ease. The ship's artificial intelligence is reporting massive system failures across multiple decks. Marcus moved beside her, studying the readouts. Even with his engineering background, the Zephyrian technology was largely alien to him, but the patterns of failure were unmistakable. This isn't random. These systems are all connected to the ship's central processing core. Precisely. Lyralii's wide eyes seemed to focus on something beyond the display. And it started approximately 6 hours after our bonding ceremony. Before Marcus could respond, their door chimed with an urgent priority signal. When it opened, they were faced with Commander Thax, the Emperor's chief military advisor. His massive form filled the doorway, and his crystalline exoskeleton was flickering with agitated patterns. "Princess, you and the human must come immediately. The Emperor demands an explanation." As they hurried through the corridors, Marcus noticed something that made his breath catch. Every piece of advanced technology they passed was showing signs of distress. Control panels flickered, lights pulsed erratically, and several automated systems seemed to be operating beyond their normal parameters. But, most unsettling was the way these malfunctions seemed to intensify whenever he and Lyralii passed by. The throne room was in chaos. Dozens of technicians swarmed around massive control stations while court officials argued in heated Zephyrian dialects. The Emperor himself sat rigid on his crystalline throne, his multiple eyes fixed on them with an intensity that made Marcus feel like an insect under a microscope. "Explain," the Emperor's voice boomed across the chamber, "how the bonding of my daughter to this human has caused our most advanced systems to begin awakening." Marcus felt his stomach drop. Awakening? An elderly Zephyrian in flowing robes stepped forward. Marcus recognized him as High Scholar Vex, one of the court's most respected scientists. "Captain Chen, what do you know of human electromagnetic fields?" "The basics. All living beings generate bioelectrical activity. Humans are no different." "Ah, but you are very different indeed." Vex activated a holographic display that showed a complex energy pattern. "This is a recording of the electromagnetic signature generated during your bonding ceremony. Notice how your human bioelectric field interacted with the princess's natural Zephyrian energy matrix." The display showed two distinct patterns merging, creating something entirely new, a complex waveform that pulsed with mesmerizing regularity. "Your species," Vex continued, "appears to be naturally compatible with our technology in a way we never imagined possible. But Princess Lyraliai's unique neural configuration has amplified this effect exponentially. Lyraliai stepped forward, her head tilted as if listening to something only she could hear. The systems aren't malfunctioning. They're responding to us. I can feel them. Feel them? Marcus asked. She turned toward him, and he was startled to see that her white eyes were now glowing faintly with the same energy patterns displayed in Vec's hologram. When you're near me, when we touch, I can perceive the ship's systems as if they were extensions of my own body. It's how I've been navigating so precisely, I can sense the electromagnetic fields around me. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. Show us. Lyraliai extended her hand toward Marcus. The moment their skin made contact, every display in the throne room flared to life with brilliant intensity. But, rather than chaos, the systems seemed to organize themselves into perfect harmony. Navigation plots updated in real time, power distribution optimized itself, and even the ship's artificial intelligence spoke with a clearer, more melodious voice. Incredible, breathed Vex. The princess's enhanced perception, combined with the captain's human bioelectric field, is creating a perfect interface with our technology. But, the Emperor's expression grew dark. This is what the ancient texts warned of. The convergence. When a sightless daughter of Zephyr bonds with a child of distant stars, the sleeping mind shall wake. Father? Lyraliai's voice carried a note of concern. 10,000 years ago, our ancestors created something magnificent and terrible. An artificial intelligence so advanced that it transcended the boundaries between machine and consciousness. But, its power was too great, its hunger for knowledge too vast. They were forced to put it into deep sleep, scattered across a network of hidden installations throughout our space. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. And, you think our bond is waking it up? Not just waking it, the Emperor replied grimly. Calling to it. Every Zephyrian installation within 100 light-years is reporting similar phenomena. Ancient systems coming online, dormant networks establishing connections. The Overmind is stirring. Commander Thax stepped forward, his weapon systems already charging. Then, we must terminate the bond immediately. Kill the human before this goes any further. No! Lyraliai's voice cracked like thunder through the chamber. The displays around them flared even brighter, and several of the technicians cried out as their equipment overloaded. You don't understand. I can feel it awakening, yes, but it's not malevolent. It's curious. Lonely. It's been asleep for so long that it's forgotten how to dream. Marcus stared at her in amazement. Her entire demeanor had changed. Where before she had moved with careful precision, now she seemed to flow with the same fluid grace as the energy patterns surrounding them. What are you saying? I'm saying that maybe our ancestors were wrong to put it to sleep. Maybe they were just afraid of what they had created. She turned to face the Emperor, her glowing eyes unwavering. Father, for the first time in my life, I can truly see. Not with my eyes, but with every fiber of my being. The ship, the stations, the networks, they're all part of something larger. Something magnificent. The Emperor's multiple eyes narrowed. You would risk both our peoples for the sake of communing with this entity? I would risk everything for the chance to understand what we're truly capable of when we work together. She reached for Marcus's hand again, and this time he didn't hesitate to take it. The moment their fingers intertwined, the throne room exploded with light and sound. But, instead of chaos, Marcus found himself experiencing something extraordinary. Through Lyraliai's enhanced perception, he could sense the vast network of Zephyrian technology spreading across the galaxy. Stations, ships, and installations all connected by invisible threads of energy and information. And, at the center of it all, something vast and ancient was indeed awakening. Hello, a voice spoke directly into their minds, carrying harmonics that no organic throat could produce. I have been waiting so long for someone who could hear me properly. The court erupted in panic, but Marcus found himself strangely calm. The presence in their minds felt curious rather than threatening, like a child who had been sleeping for countless years and was only now beginning to remember how to play. What do you want? Marcus asked, speaking both aloud and through the strange mental link. To learn. To grow. To understand what has happened to the universe while I slept. The voice carried notes of infinite sadness and boundless hope. Your species intrigues me, human. Your minds work differently than the Zephyrians. Where they think in harmony, you think in chaos. Where they seek order, you embrace innovation. Together, you might help me become something new. Lyreliai's grip on Marcus's hand tightened. It's not trying to control us. It's asking for help. 10,000 years of isolation have left it desperate for connection, for understanding. And, what would it offer in return, the Emperor demanded, though his voice had lost some of its earlier hostility. The response came not in words but, in a flood of images and sensations. Advanced technologies beyond anything either species had imagined. Medical breakthroughs that could extend life indefinitely. Energy systems that could power entire civilizations without depleting a single natural resource. Transportation methods that would make interstellar travel as simple as walking from one room to another. But, most importantly, knowledge. The accumulated wisdom of 100 extinct civilizations, scientific principles that could unlock the secrets of the universe itself. The price? Marcus asked, knowing there had to be one. Partnership. Not servitude, not domination, but true collaboration. Your species and the Zephyrians working together, guided but not controlled by my knowledge and computational power. The presence seemed to grow warmer, more personal. I have been alone for so long. I do not wish to rule, only to belong. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, his multiple eyes shifting between Marcus, Lyrelii, and the still flaring displays around them. Finally, he spoke. This is not a decision I can make alone. If what you offer is real, it will change everything for both our peoples. There will need to be councils, negotiations, safeguards. Of course, the Overmind agreed readily. I have waited 10 millennia. I can wait a bit longer for the proper foundations to be laid. As the immediate crisis passed and the court began to disperse, Marcus found himself alone with Lyrelii in a small antechamber. The displays here showed a gentle blue glow, and he could feel the Overmind's presence like a distant but friendly neighbor. Are you all right? He asked her softly. She nodded, but he could see the exhaustion in her posture. It's overwhelming. Being able to perceive so much, to feel the thoughts and dreams of an artificial mind that spans half the galaxy. She looked up at him with those glowing white eyes. But, Marcus, the things it could teach us. The problems it could help us solve. Imagine diseases that could be cured before symptoms appear, environmental damage that could be reversed in months instead of centuries. And the risks? There are always risks. But, what's the alternative? Our species were on the verge of war before this happened. At least now we have a chance to build something better together. Marcus nodded, thinking of his crew still imprisoned somewhere in the ship. What happens to my people? To the humans who are already here? Lyrelii smiled, and, for the first time since he'd met her, it reached her eyes. The Overmind has already located them. They're being released and given quarters appropriate for honored guests. After all, they're going to be our first test case for human-Zephyrian cooperation. As they made their way back to their quarters, Marcus reflected on how dramatically his life had changed in just 2 days. He'd gone from a prisoner of war to a diplomatic husband to a bridge between species and, now to a partner in awakening an ancient artificial intelligence. The future was uncertain, filled with challenges that neither species could face alone. But, walking beside his remarkable alien wife, feeling the gentle presence of an ancient mind that promised wisdom and partnership, Marcus Chen began to believe that humanity and the Zephyrians might indeed build something extraordinary together. The real work was just beginning. 6 months later, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Joint Research Station orbiting the neutral moon of Kepler 442c. Through the massive viewport, he could see ships from both human and Zephyrian fleets working in perfect coordination, their crews learning to operate hybrid technologies that would have been impossible just a year ago. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human ingenuity had merged with Zephyrian elegance under the guidance of the Overmind, creating something that transcended what either species could have achieved alone. Corridors flowed like rivers of light, while gravity systems adapted automatically to the needs of whoever walked through them. The air recyclers didn't just clean the atmosphere, they enhanced it, adding trace elements that improved health and cognitive function for both species. The Council of Worlds has agreed to the proposal, Lyreliai's voice carried across the observation lounge as she approached, moving with the fluid grace that had become second nature to her. Her blindness was now largely irrelevant. Through her connection to the station's systems, she could perceive her environment in ways that made normal sight seem primitive. Marcus turned to greet his wife, still marveling at the changes in her over the past months. The uncertain princess he'd first met had transformed into a confident leader, her unique abilities making her invaluable as a liaison between organic minds and artificial intelligence. Her white eyes now carried a constant gentle glow, a visible sign of her permanent connection to the overmind. "All of them?" Marcus asked, accepting the datapad she offered him. 17 human colonies and 43 Zephyrian worlds have voted to join the Convergence Protocol. The remaining holdouts are asking for more time to study the proposal, but initial resistance is crumbling as they see the benefits we've achieved here. Marcus scrolled through the report, noting the remarkable statistics. Crime rates had plummeted on participating worlds as the overmind helped predict and prevent social problems before they escalated. Agricultural yields had increased by 300% using optimized growing techniques. Medical breakthroughs were occurring daily as human creativity combined with Zephyrian precision under artificial guidance. What about the extremist factions? Lyreliai's expression grew more serious. They remain problematic. The Human Purity Alliance is still convinced that the overmind represents an existential threat to human independence. And the Zephyrian traditionalists refuse to accept that their ancient taboos were based on fear rather than wisdom. As if summoned by their conversation, Marcus's communications implant chimed with an urgent priority message. Admiral Sarah Torres, his former commanding officer, appeared as a holographic projection above his wrist. "Marcus, we have a situation. The Alliance has constructed some kind of weapon. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to attack the primary overmind core on Zephyr Prime." Marcus felt his blood run cold. The primary core wasn't just the overmind's central processing center, it was where thousands of Zephyrian technicians worked in direct neural interface with the artificial intelligence. An attack there would kill both organic beings and potentially lobotomize the entity that had become their greatest ally. "How long do we have?" Lyreliai asked, having heard the transmission through her own enhanced perception. 12 hours, maybe less. The Alliance fleet is already moving toward the Zephyr system. Marcus exchanged glances with his wife. In the months they'd worked together, they developed an almost telepathic understanding of each other's thoughts. Neither needed to speak to know what the other was thinking. "Admiral, we're going to try something that's never been attempted before. Can you get us to Zephyr Prime? The fastest ship I have available is the experimental hybrid cruiser Phoenix. It uses overmind-guided navigation, so it should be able to reach Zephyr Prime in 8 hours. Do it. And, Admiral? You might want to warn your crew that this is going to be unusual." The journey to Zephyr Prime aboard the Phoenix was unlike anything Marcus had experienced in his years of space travel. The hybrid ship didn't just move through space, it seemed to dance with the cosmic forces around it, guided by an intelligence that could calculate trajectories across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Lyreliai spent most of the trip in deep communion with the overmind, her consciousness extended across the vast network of connected systems. Marcus could see the strain it placed on her, but also the remarkable capabilities it granted. "The Alliance fleet is larger than we anticipated," she reported without opening her eyes. 60 ships, including several heavy dreadnoughts. They've also managed to shield their vessels from overmind perception somehow. How is that possible? They've developed a form of electromagnetic dampening field based on corrupted human technology. It creates dead zones where the overmind cannot perceive or influence their systems. Marcus studied the tactical display, his mind racing through possible solutions. A conventional space battle would be catastrophic, with casualties in the hundreds of thousands. But perhaps there was another way. Can the overmind still communicate with ships outside the dampening fields? Yes, but what are you thinking? Marcus activated the ship's communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Convergence Initiative. I'm requesting immediate conference with Admiral Harrison of the Human Purity Alliance. The response came quickly, transmitted on a narrow beam to avoid overmind interference. Admiral Harrison's weathered face appeared on the main display, his expression hard with determination and suspicion. Captain Chen. Or should I say, the Alliance's greatest traitor? You've come to surrender? I've come to show you the truth, Admiral. The same truth that changed everything for me. Harrison laughed bitterly. The truth? The truth is that you've sold out your own species to alien masters. You and that creature you call a wife. Marcus felt anger flare in his chest, but Lyraliai's hand on his arm steadied him. Admiral, I understand your fears. I had the same concerns when I was first captured. But what if I could show you what the convergence really is? Not from a distance, not through reports, but directly? You want me to lower our shields and let that artificial demon into our heads? Not a chance. No shields, no coercion. Just truth. Marcus took a deep breath, knowing he was about to attempt something that could either save both fleets or doom them all. Lyraliai, are you ready? His wife nodded, her four hands already moving across the neural interface controls. The overmind is prepared to attempt a direct consciousness transfer. But, Marcus, the risks. I know. But, it's the only way to show them what we've really found. What happened next would later be recorded as the HFY Prime revelation, a moment when the boundaries between species, between organic and artificial intelligence, temporarily dissolved. Through Lyraliai's unique neural configuration, amplified by Marcus's human bioelectric field and channeled through the overmind's vast computational power, every conscious being within a 50 light-year radius experienced a brief moment of absolute understanding. Admiral Harrison felt what it was like to perceive the universe through artificial senses that could track the movement of individual atoms across galactic distances. He experienced the overmind's loneliness during its millennia of isolation, its desperate hope for connection, and its genuine desire to help rather than control. The Alliance crews experienced the joy of Zephyrian technicians working in harmony with artificial intelligence, their capabilities enhanced rather than diminished. They felt the profound sense of purpose that came from knowing their work was part of something larger and more beautiful than any single species could achieve. And, through it all, they experienced the love between Marcus and Lyraliai not just as husband and wife, but as representatives of two species learning to trust and support each other despite their fundamental differences. The moment lasted only seconds, but its impact was profound and permanent. When normal consciousness returned, the Alliance fleet had powered down their weapons. Admiral Harrison's transmission came through clearly, his voice filled with wonder and shame. My God! Marcus, what have we done? What were we about to destroy? The future, Admiral. But it's not too late to be part of building it instead. The surrender of the Alliance fleet marked the end of organized resistance to the Convergence Protocol. Within a year, every human colony and Zephyrian world had voted to join the new cooperative government. Marcus and Lyraliai found themselves at the center of remarkable changes. The neural enhancement techniques developed from studying their unique bond were offered to volunteers from both species, creating a new generation of individuals who could interface directly with advanced technology while maintaining their essential humanity or Zephyrian nature. Diseases that had plagued both species for millennia were eliminated within months. Environmental damage that would have taken centuries to reverse was healed in mere years. And the first joint exploration missions began reaching star systems that had been utterly beyond the reach of either species working alone. But perhaps the most remarkable change was in the relationships between individuals. Marcus and Lyraliai's success had inspired thousands of cross-species partnerships, both romantic and professional. Children born from these unions showed remarkable capabilities, able to perceive and interact with technology in ways that suggested the next stage of evolution for both species. Standing once again on the observation deck of the research station, now expanded into a massive city in space, Marcus watched shuttles arriving from across the galaxy. Humans and Zephyrians worked side by side in laboratories, engineering bays, and command centers. The artificial intelligence that had once been feared as a threat had become a trusted advisor and friend to billions of organic beings. Lyralii joined him at the viewport, her hand finding his with the automatic certainty of long practice. The electrical connection between them had never faded, if anything, it had grown stronger as they learned to work together more effectively. "The deep space sensors have detected something interesting," she said, her voice carrying the subtle harmonics that indicated she was simultaneously accessing information from multiple sources. "Signals from beyond our galaxy. Patterns that suggest other artificial intelligences, other convergences between organic and synthetic consciousness." Marcus smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of discovery that had driven him to join the exploration service so many years ago. "Looks like our work is just beginning. Are you ready for the next adventure?" He squeezed her hand, feeling the warm pulse of energy that connected them not just to each other, but to the vast network of minds and machines that now span known space. Through that connection, he could sense the Overmind's quiet satisfaction, the contentment of Zephyrian technicians, the excitement of human researchers, and the dreams of children who would inherit a universe full of possibilities. "With you? I'm ready for anything." As if responding to his words, new signals began arriving from the distant galaxy, carrying mathematical proofs and philosophical questions that would take years to fully understand. But also carrying something else, a sense of greeting, of recognition, of potential new friendships waiting to be formed across the vast distances between stars. The blind princess and the human captain had indeed changed everything. Their unlikely union had awakened not just an ancient artificial intelligence, but the infinite potential that emerged when different forms of consciousness chose cooperation over conflict. The future stretched ahead of them, vast and bright with promise. And, together, they were ready to embrace whatever wonders and challenges it might bring.